Hello everybody, back here at the channel, part 3 of the Gen 2 Viper engine build. So today, Saturday, rainy day, nice day to be out. We're going to get into the video of showing on this part the top end, how to put the head studs in, lifters, rocker arms, and pretty much just taking care of the top end sensor wise. And I'll try to cover as best as I can, as detailed as I can. If I miss some stuff, just comment or something and I'll try to get back and reply back to you guys. Let me show you. So we're going to start by putting the ARP head studs in it. Part number right there. These I ended up getting versus the OEM bolts. You see these? These are the OE. Not too sure if these are torque to yield, but either way I didn't want to find out because I believe they are. But either way, you know, I just was going to upgrade because when you can, it's always better to. And that's just like how I like to do stuff. And anyways, these ARPs are tried and true. And this is going to be, you know, extremely well over built for what the engine's ever going to experience. And plus, you can reuse this stuff. Guaranteed. Studs is undoubtedly better than a bolt. So what I do with every engine build is we chase the bolts. Every threaded bolt there gets chased and cleaned out because there's debris and, you know, gunk that gets, you know, where it needs to be cleaned up on the threads. If you do not do that, when you torque down the heads, the torque value can be thrown off by a lot or a little bit or good enough, and you don't want to take that chance. It all has to start out clean and fresh, and where it's all going to be reliably torqued. This block is what they call blind holes, so there is no coolant that runs through them, and that makes it really nice, so you don't have to put any type of sealant on the threads. So, and keeps all that gunk and stuff to a very minimum. So the holes are pretty much super clean for the most part. And anyways, especially that if that would be more of a concern with a bolt, but since it's running a stud, these actually go in really nice, and I haven't even touched them. You see, these would probably be just good to go as they are, but I like to do it regardless. And with the studs, like I said, it doesn't matter because the torque gets down here as long as this bottoms out. So when I torque these down, just finger tight, and then maybe with a little torque tool with the Allen head there, maybe just ever so slightly, just a little bit, but it's not even a torque. It's just to make sure that your fingers are, you know, the same value of all of it all, but don't go crazy at all. I'm not saying to do that. So ARP says not to, so we're not going to do that. Anyway, so I'm going to clean up the bolts here, and this is a what I was going to tell you is, if you don't have a chaser to go through the taps here, you could always use an old head bolt and grind these threads down, you know, maybe 4 fillets, like one here, all around the bolt itself, and you could use that as a chase to clean out the threads. It's not the most effective, but if you're in a pinch, you could do that. And the sizing is, the pitch on it is a 1/2 inch. It's a 1/2 inch by 13 NC, in case you were wondering, if you need that tap or that chase. Sorry, but I'm gonna get to doing that, and then I'll show. So I prepped the holes, chased all the hole threads, made sure everything fits nice. Does take a little time. It does take a while to do it, to be honest. It's something that seems so simple, but the reason being is just debris. You want to make sure you don't want any of that debris falling in the engine, inside the journals, and falling inside your engine. That won't be good. So what I do is, when I'm done chasing them, I'll use the shop vac along with my air hose, and I'll vacuum it, and then I'll have the engine covered up. And while I'm doing one at a time, you know, I'm trying to minimize debris from falling in there, and just trying to prevent this, taking preventive measures as best as I can. So what we got to do next is do the lifters. So I'm pre-soaking those. Here's the lifters I got from Crower. There's the part numbers for them. So I'm letting those soak. They're about ready to put in. So I'm going to put those in next. And then once we put the lifters in, we'll stab the heads on there. But let me show you what I was gonna about the head gasket here. Here's our head gasket, the Cometics, and this is for because the engine is bored 10 over on the pistons, so from the standard 10 thousandths over piston. But on the gaskets, what I like to do is I never like to try to put my fingerprints or grease on top of the mating surfaces when I do this. Don't think it's too critical about that, but I'm just that type of way. I make sure I prep all my surface here with the cylinder head and on the deck with alcohol, and rub it down with any type of solvent or alcohol, and before I put it all on. This head gasket only goes one way, and you've got to make sure you pay attention. You see this hole right here? These two line up right there. They have to line up this way. You cannot put it this way, and it will fit in there. But you see how those holes don't even come close to lining up, so it only goes that one way. So be sure to pay attention on that. Usually, I don't have these studs bolted in there. I'll just leave a few of them in there, maybe like 3 or 4 studs, because trying to put this gasket on there sometimes could be a pain in the butt to get in there to slide on. And then especially with the cylinder head, it could be pretty hard to get those in there. So that's just the way I like to do it. So these are just finger tight, so I'm going to pull them off, and I'll probably just leave a few in there and not all the whole bunch. But let me put the lifters in first, and then we'll put the cylinder heads on next. The lifters in there, but let me show you something that I like to do. The lifter oil feed right here where my thumb is, right there. I like to put that, see on the other side, there's nothing there. So that's the oil feed plug right there on the lifter. I like to just face them all up like that, every single one. And then we put the link bars on it. But the reason I like to do that is, in theory, my theory is when the engine is not running, there's less chance for the oil to bleed off. So on a cold start, there's not a lifter starvation of oil up until when the oil pressure actually gets to it and things warm up. So that's just my little theory there. So it's probably relevant, but that's just, like I said, I just like to kind of do all of that stuff, particularly like that. I got one of the lifter retainers in here. It only goes one way with the lifter, so make sure 100% that it lines up flat on these, up on the top and the bottom, and that it's not misaligned. It has to be 100% true, and do not force anything. This has to be flat. You can feel it on the block, and then we're going to torque those bolts down to 95 inch-pounds. Got all the lifter trays in there, lifters torqued down. I went ahead and put the head gasket on this side. I'm going to stab the head on now. This is what we're looking at. Like I said, I put some of the studs on there just to guide the head, and then make sure they go in on the dowels right here, because you don't want the gasket to get distorted or bent. So it looks all good. It's in the proper orientation we need it to be. I'm going to put the head on. All right, so jumped a whole lot of steps ahead from when the head was on or off. We torqued down the heads down, put the rockers on, lashed them, and I went ahead and put all the front accessories on. So I'll walk through a little bit of what the process of everything that I did to it. When we torqued the heads down, ARP was calling for 120 foot-pounds on them, on these studs. So make sure you lubricate the fronts and the rears and stuff on the threads pretty well. Don't be shy with them. Don't overdo it, but just don't be shy of putting the lube that they provide. 4 steps is what I did in 40 foot-pounds increments. So 40, 80, and then 120 being the last one. Did both heads, torqued it all down, cleaned up all the bolts here, cleaned every single one out, all the dirt, just to make everything look as new as we can make it. So next step was clean all the rockers. They had a lot of gunk from just sitting around and stuff. Cleaned those up too. We lubricated them. Got all that nice and lashed and rotated and fixated. So I don't quite remember the torque values on them, but if I want them, if don't quote me on it, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I did 25 on these, 25 foot-pounds, 25 foot-pounds on the jam nuts, and then on there's a pedestal for the rocker, which is this right here that it sits on. These were 30 foot-pounds. Let me bring to your attention something real quick that's really important on Viper engines. The push rods, kind of hard to see them. The push rods, they can actually, let me see if I get a flashlight. You want to be extremely careful because obviously, let me see if I can dim that just a little bit. It's going to be hard to see here in camera. But I'm going to show you if you can see down there in the hole. You've got to be extremely careful because these push rods or anything that you drop in there by accident, your bolt, there's a lot of bolts obviously on a rocker arm setup like this, a shafted setup. There's a lot of room for error. You do not want, I can't stress to you enough, you do not want those push rods falling inside of there in that pocket because they can fall all the way into the side of the crank or in an area where you just cannot retrieve it anymore. That actually happened to me when we were pulling the engine out, and I was trying to get it out, but we were pulling it all apart anyways. But bad news for sure. I dropped a push rod by accident, and that would be no good at all if it was you had an assembled engine like this already and that happened to you. There's just no room for error on none of that. So another thing I want to bring to your attention, these TD rockers, they're really neat because the way they lubricate, they do not lubricate from up here. The squirters usually squirt on traditional rocker arms would squirt up and then just splash inside your valve cover. These do not do that. They have the squirt that goes inside this vane channel that goes in here, and it flows through the sides of the shaft. They come out this way and one this way, and then it comes out in the center, coming down to your valve tip. So that's what a quality rocker arm, what you're buying for. You're not just buying integrity and strength. You're buying more reliability and just quality ship of what you're buying, parts into what you're putting into your engine. We put them the whole front accessories on. Not sure if I'm gonna have to take this back off or the alternator or what to put the engine in or compressor. I'm pretty sure I can get it all in there with it other than this because I'm gonna use that to actually anchor the engine in, hoist put my chain on it to hoist the engine inside the car. So we'll see how that goes, but you don't want to grab it from here, the neck, all that. It's pretty weak areas. They do not give you very many options to grab this engine. So, and the areas that they did do, like on the intakes, I just do not trust those being sufficient enough with as heavy as this engine is. And yeah, I'd rather just tie it down here or somewhere in the alternator, remove that, and then chain it. But anyways, I'm waiting on the front seal, and then I'll put the front damper. I definitely want to put that on before we put the engine inside the car, because then after that it's gonna be a nightmare. I already cleaned up all the bolts for the flywheel, so I'm gonna hoist this off right now, hopefully, and then I'm gonna try to work on that, get it ready. I think tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, I can get the seal for the crank, and then maybe have this engine start getting inside the car and firing it up, hopefully by the end of the week, if not by the beginning of the next week. Can't remember anything else I want to share. But other than that, that's where it's at. Let me show you these. This engine, we already had upgraded to the Gen 3, Gen 4 valve covers, which makes it extremely nice because the Gen 2 valve covers, they're made of magnesium and they actually get eaten up and tore up. But these are really nice because these spacers lets you run the Gen 3 valve covers, which let me show you here how that is. So what you do is you're going to need two Gen 3 valve cover gaskets, one for the spacer and then one for the valve cover, which I'm waiting on tomorrow. And they just go on like that. And these you can actually, I want to make sure that stays. Better put a bolt. I don't trust it. But these you wanna, let me see. Hold on a second. All right, what I was trying to say is these. What you want to do is these are actually really nice because these are actually aluminum, and you can actually powder coat these in the future, and they're just a more sturdier valve cover in general. So these are tried and true, much better setup in my opinion. But if you want the original look, you could do that too. So that's what they look like. So these spacers here, I don't even know if anybody's selling them. Like I said, they're just one of those things where in the Viper community, you have to know connections around, but can't remember exactly where we got them from. But they're pricey units. If you find them and you want to do these conversions, you gotta be willing to pay for that amount, but for that conversion. Another thing we had done in the past was we had put the billet power steering bracket. Those break a lot, the originals, and power steering pulley as well. Those break because they're plastic, and once that breaks, everything else, your power steering goes, and it's a big nightmare. But this is now a billet pulley and billet bracket for the power steering. That's what it looks like with the setup. I think it looks pretty sharp. We are ready, man. I'm gonna get this going right now. After I finish this video, I'm gonna stab the intake on there just for a thumbnail pic, huh? Okay, there it is with the intake on. Still has a Gen 2 intake on there. Looks awesome. Everything's all cleaned up, super nice. Looks as ready to go, man. It's ready to rock and roll. Beautiful looking engine. Let me end off the video here, man, and this will be part 3, I believe. So yeah, part 3, and then the coils go back here. So that looks great, man. We had changed. He had bought a new intake for it as well. This was a brand new one, so that's why it looks so good. But it's ready to rock and roll. So I'm ready to hear this thing and ready to get back to the car running it up to speed. And I've got to pull this intake back off. I just have it there for looks because I got to put it on when it's on the car. All right, I'm going to end the video right here. And I hope you guys enjoy the journey with the build. I hope you guys I earned you guys a follow, subscribe to it, and hit the bell and all that stuff. Whichever side it is, this side, this side. But yeah. I'll end it off there, and I hope you guys have a good night and keep wrenching. God bless you guys, and I'll hope to see you guys around in the next one. And I've got another builds. I've got builds for miles and miles. So we're healthy, man. We are, thank the Lord, we have thriving. We've been through a lot of hardships. I'm just an everyday guy, just trying to make it, man, with a passion. This is a journey that we have learned to do. The thing I very love to do as my livelihood. So I'm very grateful, and I love I would love to share more on the channel, and I'm trying my dangest to do it. But actually, the next build I don't know if I mentioned on the channel or not, but the transom up here. This build right here is a very special one just because it has some history for the shop, believe it or not. And this one's my brother's Trans Am. You can follow his shop. He actually has his page. It's Levery's Automotive, LLC. And here on YouTube channel. That's the first car that we built that was custom. And that's what kind of kicked off our business way back in 2000. Man, back when I was in high school, which that was back, I graduated back in 2007. So it's been a minute. But that car was inspired. We actually painted it Viper green. That's actually the Viper green paint right there. So we are about to do a full blown balls to the wall, custom deal in there. LT4 engine, 9-inch rear, coat the whole bottom, do the custom front end on it. As far as like radiator setup, ZL1 brakes, 6 Gen 1s, ceramic carbon brake rotors. I got a TR6060 and full custom interior that we're going to do on it. We're going to go all the way out. So that's just one of them. And I've got a lot of builds, man, going on. And I still haven't even, I think, posted too much about Dark Knight. So I get real passionate about what I do, and I get really thrived into it. But anyway, so I'm gonna see you guys there. Peace.